Mac, at the screening of Beetlejuice, were
Yeah.
you unsettled sitting next to someone dressed as Beetlejuice?
So you were very perturbed by this. He wasn't in my periph, so
Mhm.
I was not bothered by it. It didn't even really affect me whatsoever. But you mentioned it a couple times.
Well, it was the 2 of us, not only us, but it was a screening for the general audience, but there was a fella dressed I would say his costume and, facial makeup better than Keaton in the movie, and he was sitting on the edge of his seat watching with such passion as if he had not seen the movie yet, and I'm like, "This is kinda weird."
Well, clearly, and there was also a person dressed up as Bob in the lobby as well. Clearly, these two folks were paid by or put on by the production company or whoever runs
Maybe,
these things because people were
maybe.
taking photos with them as well.
But, I ask you this question, though. What movie would you like to see with someone dressed just as the main character sitting next to you, and then also the other way around?
Anything with Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah, okay, that's not bad. You want someone just dressed exactly like Sydney Sweeney. I'd say more
I
of a
yeah.
character.
Yeah, whatever the name of that movie's coming out with her and Anna de Armas, Eden or something like that, that one.
Okay. Have you ever seen a Star Wars movie with someone dressed as a Star Wars sitting next to you?
Yeah, this is we talked about this a little bit, and it was weird because it was both the plebs and some of the folks that were press were
Yeah.
dressed in were like Beetlejuice themed or in actual costumes, and to me, again, this goes along with the applause during movies. What is that for? Is that you did that just for an Instagram post? I don't really understand because you hypothetically, and this is my whole thing with women in heels and the crazy shit they wear, you're just doing it to impress other women and other people. And what's the real end game there?
Well, I can speak as someone, I don't think I've ever done cosplay for a con or for a fan expo, but
No.
my wife one year went as Wonder Woman, but specifically the scene where Wonder Woman wears a blue dress with the sword along her back, and she got so many compliments. She
Yeah.
felt so good about herself,
Yeah.
so I can see that as being the reason.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. They just need a little ego boost. I do recall that, and that was a nice little niche costume there. Yeah, I'll never do it. I'll never dress up for a screening themed. I like if I go to see a comic book movie and I have a T-shirt that references that character. I'll wear that. I'm not going to dress up like the character.
One goo, three, yeah! Goo! Jaws 3! Goo! King of Queens! Goo! Meryl Streep! Goo! Entertainment!
I'm Goo,
And I am Mac.
and we are the hosts with the most. Have I said that yet?
Today, we are discussing the latest entry into the BCU. That's right,
Oh, there we
Beetlejuice.
go.
Yeah,
Nice.
the Beetlejuice cinematic universe there, Goo. One might say Beetlegoose. Huh? Eh?
That's okay. It's not
Uh,
that good because that's how he spells his name. It's very similar.
that is true. That is true. Of course, if you are a listener to this program, we reviewed the first movie last week as part of prep for this, and because Goo loves it so much.
I do.
And I believe you gave it 39 hot dogs. Is that
38
right?
or 39.
Okay.
I just couldn't settle on 40. That was my
Yep.
main thing, but
Yep.
it's in that upper tier of just being a super creative, fun movie.
And I was 34, 35. Really loved the movie as a kid. Holds up
Yeah.
pretty well. Pretty memorable movie. So that's for sure. Goo, this movie is projected to make over $100 million on its opening weekend, which is more than the first movie made in its whole run. And to me, that's pretty surprising.
Well, it's nostalgia playing into it. It's people who have over the years found these characters and love these characters. It's also, it's an IP that people know.
Yeah, I guess that's true. You never hear anyone talk or reference Beetlejuice, really, unless it's you. And so I'm just surprised by
Unless
how
you're
many people
talking to Goo.
I'm just surprised at how many people are coming out of the woodwork for this. This was made on $100 million budget, production budget, maybe double that, like you always say for advertising. But I think this is tracking to make like probably 500 million, if not more. So it's going to
I
make a
also
lot of
wouldn't be
money.
surprised if the advertising budget on this is more than the 100 million
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you.
because they are advertising the shit out
We've
of it.
seen a lot of it these last couple of weeks. I actually just this morning heard a radio ad, Goo, and they
Yeah.
said the movie was starring Winona Rider and Jenna Ortega. Zero mention of Michael Keaton or Catherine O'Hara, who O'Hara, I would argue, is for sure the bigger star than Winona Ryder. Jenna Ortega, I get. But
I would also say for this movie, the standout star, the one that I would point to as the best character in the movie, and obviously that's not what you're selling it on,
Mhm.
but it is Catherine O'Hara.
Yeah, and I know Winona has Stranger Things, and that's one of the biggest shows on the planet. But I think more people are would argue that Catherine O'Hara and her running Schitt's Creek
Yes.
makes her more famous than Winona from Stranger Things.
And I would even say that whoever said, okay, we need to let Catherine O'Hara be more like her character from Schitt's Creek did the right thing.
Yeah, I agree. That was a great move, and she is certainly a standout character in this movie. Goo! Beetlejuice Beetlejuice is a PG-13 comedy, fantasy, and a horror movie. Subgenres here: dark comedy, dark fantasy, supernatural horror. I will say, in relation to the first movie, I would say it is much less frightening than the first movie.
This is way more of a comedy, and it's trying to be.
Yep, it really leans into the fun and the hijinks of the possibilities of the afterlife, whereas the first movie just gave you a little bit that, and it was more grounded as a ghost story could be.
Yeah, like I would say percentage-wise, I think this is more like the animated series than it is the first movie.
I will say though, and we will talk about this obviously at length, I don't really know how you could make a sequel and it not be like this. You can make some
Okay, no.
changes, but I feel like this was naturally the path they had to go.
There are a couple things, and it might be nitpicky, or it might just be me really preferring something from the first movie that might take this one down a peg. But I think as a legacy sequel, you would call it a comedy legacy sequel. Those are often terrible. This is pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, quite good. And in the grand scheme of 2024 movies, I'd say it's up there. And that's in part because 2024 hasn't been great.
I think it's in that batch of movies in that third tier for me.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a nice big market tease. Goo!
Yes.
This movie has a runtime of 104 minutes. It honestly might have even been a little lighter of that, taking credits out. The pacing was great. Pacing might be the best thing about this movie.
Would you say that it's better paced than the first movie?
For sure. For sure is.
I don't know, because I like the buildup of the first movie. This one didn't really have a buildup.
No, you just jump. You're in from Jump Street.
You jump right in.
And there's no real wasted moments. It's they jump around. There's no real downtime. There's no real bore here. It's buzzing the whole time.
Well, I think you could argue that some of the stuff that they think is fun might not be that fun. But it is them doing fun. It is them attempting fun.
Yeah, that might be the difference between you and I on this one. Good. On Roddy T's, this has 77% from the critics. Obviously, no audience score yet. On Metacritic, a 63. So they are generally liking this, a general thumbs up. Compared to the first one, just a little behind, 82% and a 71. So the critics in general are liking it, just a little less than the first one. For the audience score there, I'm guessing this is going to be around 90%. I think most people are going to
I would guess around there.
Yeah.
Unless it's, someone who's macabre and they're saying, this is not as spooky as I remember. Because, the people that would do that are from Transylvania.
Right.
It's just Dracula's saying that.
Of course. And they make a reference to him.
Who
in this
did
movie.
this? Who did this to my movie?
This movie is written by the writing team of Alfred Goff, I don't know how you would pronounce that, and Miles Millar. These two were behind Lethal Weapon 4, Shanghai Noon, and Nights. The team behind Smallville, Spider-Man 2, Herbie Fully Loaded. That's the Lindsay Lohan one. The Mummy.
Also Michael Keaton.
Yeah. The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, by far the worst one.
The best one. I'm sorry. What?
Unless you include the Tom Cruise one in that conversation. Also, the writing team on Wednesday, obviously.
Yeah.
And upcoming here, Goo, they're making Shanghai Dawn, the third movie. So that's coming. Obviously, still writing Wednesday. The other writer on this movie is Seth Grahame-Smith. You would know him from Dark Shadows, that terrible Johnny, what's his name?
Johnny Depp and also Tim Burton.
Yep, yep. He
Question
also
for you. I know that you might have already mentioned this. So, Metacritic was a 63.
Mhm.
63 is pretty good?
Yeah, 63, I would say the 60s are good, the 70s are really good, 80s are great.
Perfect,
The
okay.
50s are
I
like
get
the
it.
middling stuff in Metacritic.
Okay.
Also Goof, Seth Graham-Smith, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, I know that's one of your favorites,
It
and
is.
also the Lego Batman movie. So very interesting writing
Yeah.
career for him. Upcoming for him is Now You See Me 3, and also an untitled Star Trek prequel.
Okay. All right.
So that's that. Of course, this movie is directed by Tim Burton.
Tim Burton.
We've discussed Burton at length. His most recent movie prior to this was Dumbo, which sucked, and he's obviously doing Wednesday
But
on
how about you
Netflix.
say what he's known for, not just his recent
No,
shit?
no, everyone knows all that. Everyone knows Tim Burton. If you're listening to a Beetlejuice
You know what's
podcast,
crazy?
you're well
And
aware.
I need to know the rules.
Mhm,
Tim Burton just got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
mhm.
How do they determine when and why someone gets a star on the Walk of Fame?
I feel like you gotta be in the industry on the scene for 20, 25 years, and then from there, they'll consider you.
I see younger stars get their thing like every single week. It's just like
Sure about that?
it's almost at random, like they
Sure
pull
about that's
names
not
out of
what?
a hat.
I don't know.
I'm not entirely sure. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm not sure.
Because Burton probably should have had his done what, like in the mid '90s?
Yeah, but at then he's 9 years into his career, you know?
I was
Like
he's 9 years
so
old.
like if you were to give M Night one 4 years in and then the next 20 years was gonna suck,
I mean, M Night's probably still going to get one in like 10, 15
he is
years.
gonna, but like that's
So,
kind of what
like,
you're advocating
bad
for.
excuse, bad example.
Goose, synopsis
Yeah.
for Beetlejuice. After a family tragedy, 3 generations of the Deetz family return home to Winter River. Still haunted by Beetlejuice, Lydia's life is turned upside down when her teenage daughter, Astrid, accidentally opens the portal to the afterlife.
So, not to say what the tragedy is, I
Tragedy!
thought hilarious. I thought that tragedy might have been the funniest thing of the movie.
Yep, so I was not privy to this information. If you didn't listen to our Beetlejuice episode, you might not be as well. The treatment of Charles here, who was Delia's husband in the first one, played by Jeffrey Jones, is that his name?
Yeah.
Apparently
Well,
he's
we don't need to say what he, but give it a
no,
Google.
no, he's a convicted pedo, so they
Okay.
had to
All right.
confront that, and
I don't know if YouTube was, they'll blackball us for saying that.
and I thought they handled it well. They didn't completely avoid it. They turned the character into a punchline, which was I thought a great thing because you could not address his character at the very least. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Goo, this movie
Mhm.
stars not Jeffrey Jones, but Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice, Winona Ryder. I'm gonna fuck it
no.
up again. Winona
Hey,
Ryder.
shout out, Frenchie.
Winona Ryder as Lydia Deetz, Catherine O'Hara as Delia Deetz, Jenna Ortega as Astrid Deetz,
Stop.
Justin Theroux as Rory, Willem Dafoe as Wolf Jackson, Monica Bellucci as Dolores, and Arthur Conti as Jeremy. Of course, Goo, as always, well, as most Tim Burton films are, it was scored by Danny Elfman, and they brought back, obviously, the iconic Beetlejuice theme for the opening credits here, which I love. It's one of the best ones I think he's ever done. And once again, Goo, they filmed some of the exterior shots here in Corinth, Vermont, which is the real town. The fictional town, of course, is Winter River. And the neighborhood scenes, Goo, where Jenna Ortega is sort of riding her bike around and we see some homes. Those are actually filmed in Melrose, Massachusetts.
I know. It's pretty
That's
cool.
pretty
I
good.
like that.
Pretty good. Nice.
I'm
little
actually,
tie-in
I'm
there.
pretty much there right now. That's where I am.
Yeah, you're not too far. I
I'm
will
not
say
too
this
far.
about Melrose,
Yeah.
which is similar to Malden. Real pain in the ass to get to. No
Oh, yeah.
direct route, always traffic. You can't just take one road and get there.
I'll also say this, when it lists that Michael Keaton is the star of the movie, more so than the first movie, yes.
That's for sure. That is definitely for sure. They feature him more and more consistently throughout. The percentage is maybe only a little bit higher, but he is more central to everything that's going on as well.
And do you think that maybe he was toned down a bit because he is on the screen so much? And, his energy in the first movie might be too much if he's in for a half an hour or 35 minutes.
I just think, over the years, hypothetically here in that universe, he's changed a little bit. I didn't have issue with Keaton. I had issue with Ryder
Well,
and Lydia Deetz.
I had issue. I'm not saying like big issue. I just feel like the character didn't feel the same with Beetlejuice. He didn't have that same manic energy to him. And then for Lydia, it's almost like whoever wrote the character or even her kind of shaped it around the actress that she is now, as opposed to who that character was in the first movie. And you can argue she's a teenager in the first movie. They'll evolve, but she's almost just too much Winona Rider in this.
Yeah, I don't agree on Beetlejuice. He felt mostly the same, but Lydia felt like, and this is, I honestly think this is more a Winona than it is the writing. She was just playing Joyce Byers. That's
Yeah.
who she was
Yeah.
in this, and
Yeah.
it didn't feel like Lydia at all. More in the third act, she felt more like that, but it didn't feel like Lydia Deetz, and that's probably my biggest complaint about this movie.
Right. And like we said, people evolve in their life, people
Sure,
change, but
sure.
I feel like that character wouldn't.
Especially how they frame her life in this movie, how she's become this paranormal expert, and it's very central to what she's doing
Yeah.
because, of course, the first movie for her story sort of ends on a high note, but
Mhm.
it just didn't jive for me. And maybe we're being pessimistic here, but I also don't think Winona Ryder's that good of an actress. So
How dare you?
maybe that's part of it too.
How dare you?
Goo, we'll get into the gauntlet pretty quick here. I don't think there's a ton to discuss about the story, and maybe that is to its detriment. But this movie, to me, was a ton of fun. More fun than I had expected, more fun than I had hoped for. I laughed throughout the whole thing. It was funnier, it was fun. This movie is just what Fun Factor is made for.
So I'm not sure how much we can talk about the story outside of like the spoiler stuff in there
Mhm.
because it does spend way more time in the afterlife. I do think that some of the stuff in the real world does drag a little bit, but like I said earlier, I think a huge win for this movie is knowing that Catherine O'Hara is a fucking superstar and just let her do her thing right to her strengths. And they did that. They even had a great Easter egg from Schitt's Creek in this movie that
Yep.
was hilarious.
Yeah.
Also, and we'll talk about it in a second, but like Willem Dafoe understood the assignment.
Yeah, so the newcomers were very strong here. Obviously, you knew Jenna Ortega was going to be. Willem Dafoe's character was phenomenal, and I also loved Justin Theroux. I don't think you did.
I didn't like him
I
at
loved
all.
him. I
I thought
loved
that
him.
character sucked. I
Oh,
thought that was
I
a
enjoyed it.
one note, paper thin character.
I really enjoyed it.
I did not like it. And then my final note here, it says carnitas, white rice, refried beans, pico de gallo, guacamole, and hot sauce.
Yeah, you motherfucker. All you do all day is eat burritos in the theater. I swear you're just here for the burritos.
I hate this podcast. I hate going to the movies. I hate watching movies. Why do I do it? So I can eat a burrito.
Burritos. What?
Shall we get into the gauntlet?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's start with fun factor. And if nothing else, the movie is fun. And like I said earlier, it felt a lot like the animated series where it's the misadventures of Beetlejuice.
Yeah, to me, extremely high fun factor. Maybe the most fun movie of the year. They really leaned into the fun and silliness and the promises or expectations one might have for the afterlife stuff. But with that, they also kind of got away from some of the horror and darkness that the first one provided.
Satisfactor, I'm yes and no. Because I was satisfied by the humor in this movie, but I wasn't satisfied by two of the legacy characters that was given to me. I love the tone of the original movie, and the tone, it isn't quite there with this one.
I agree. The tone's different. Again, I disagree about Keaton's Beetlejuice, but I wholeheartedly agree about Winona. But to me, and I said this leading up, all I really wanted out of this movie was spending more time in the afterlife and the hijinks and the fun we could have there, and this delivered on that. So this was pretty satisfying for me.
Also, Otho, carrot sign facing him over Justin Theroux.
Otho's a great character, but Justin Theroux
We
was
needed
funny.
a little Otho here. We needed to
That would've
figure
been-
that out.
It would have been nice if we saw him at the beginning when we're in Delia's art studio.
Or even say if he died, we see him in the afterlife.
Sure.
decorating her. That'd be a great little
Is
Easter
that
egg.
guy dead in real life, maybe?
I'm not sure. That's something
Hmm.
that we should have looked up.
Yeah.
Borometer, not boring, but I wanted a Beetle buildup, and we didn't get the Beetle buildup.
Big bad Beetleborgs. The pacing is great in this movie. They don't waste time. I suppose you could make the argument that you kind of have is in that some of the stuff they attempt to do didn't quite hit, but there's no real wasted time in this movie
Aquator, it's better than Aquaman.
for sure.
Oh, sorry, what's it called?
Oh, the what what
What? Quater?
water
Oh,
a quarter world. A quarter
Aquaterworld.
world. There we go.
It's better than Waterworld.
It is better than, unfortunately better than Waterworld.
Halloween, will this movie wane over time? It's a spooky movie, so Halloween fits perfectly. But yes, maybe. I'm not sure the staying power, maybe. I'm not sure the rewatchability of this movie.
Yeah, I'm having a tough time with this one because it is really fun. But it's probably a bit lesser of a story and more pizzazz, more bells and whistles. And I feel like maybe the first one is more memorable because it was so different at the time. So this one may not hold up as well.
So this actually works well with the next one here, which is Pants Tent City, Excite Bike Mania. And I don't think this movie, outside of a twist, truly has that Beetlejuice one pants tent moment of it's showtime, or him, step right up, step right up. Like that big Beetlejuice pants tent. It doesn't really have that.
Yeah, you could argue that kind of final scene is what they built it up for, like kind of what you're looking for and talking about there. But it probably wasn't as good as the couple scenes in the first movie. Yeah, I guess this is a spoiler to some, but there's a twist in this movie that I didn't see coming, and they foreshadowed it, and I thought it was great and
I
really
was
took this
so
movie to another level.
mad at myself
Yeah,
when it happened. I'm like, it was so fucking obvious.
really good
You
twist.
idiot. You
Really good
dummy.
twist. Yeah,
You
I enjoyed it.
stupid idiot. When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And Mac, you have two candidates here. And I'm going to go with Catherine O'Hara, who I think truly, she's in more of the movie. And I think that she does carry the comedy of the movie.
Yeah, she's more of a main character, which is why I don't know if she quite qualifies, but she did every scene she was in, she was great. And to me, like, she wasn't as insane as Maura shit is. It was like dialed back. It was somewhere
She's
between
somewhere in
Delia and
between.
Maura.
Yes, Delia and Moira.
Yeah. I think that if you're looking for a new character that just popped in here and there, Willem Dafoe was so good in this movie. Made me laugh almost every time he talked.
Either Willem Dafoe or Willem Dafoe's secretary.
Yeah, she was just brought him coffee every time.
And she had one line. That's it. Every time. She was great.
You got to keep it real.
Max Credit Union.
I got to give Tim Burton credit here, and I have been a somewhat vocal critic of him over the last few years. Him pulling off a sequel 36 years later is truly impressive, especially considering it's a comedy sequel, and that almost never happens.
Yeah, and I think you do have to put the spotlight on the word comedy, because comedic legacy sequels are generally terrible.
Yes.
So this movie deserves credit for not being terrible.
Yeah.
Even if you don't think it's the greatest thing in the world, it still deserves credit for being a very watchable movie.
Yeah, in that respect, it's pretty fucking high on the list of comedy sequels. It's up there for one of the better ones ever
Even
made.
comedy sequels in general, you're right.
Yeah.
And I would I think legacy sequel wise, like Top Gun Maverick is like nothing's going to touch that.
Yeah, that set the new bar, right?
I really enjoyed Twisters. You didn't like it as much.
It was good.
I think that the reason why I might come in lower on this is just my love for the first movie. Like Twister, you remember it. No one loved the first Twister.
Yeah. Well,
people do love the first
Helen
Top
Hunt.
Gun. I don't really care for the first Top Gun.
I agree with you on that one.
So when you get something as good as Top Gun Maverick, you're like, what in the world? How did they do this?
How in the hell?
For those of you tardy to the Mac and Goo party, we rate everything on a 40 hot dog rating system. And Mac, once again, Catherine O'Hara is the best. And they let her kill it.
Mm.
Willem Dafoe understood the assignment, but then I'm not super disappointed in Beetlejuice. I think that Keaton as Beetlejuice just doesn't have the same energy that he does in the first one. He doesn't have the same aura as
The
well.
juice.
Thank you. He doesn't have the same aura as well, where in the first one, he's feared by everybody, by ghosts, by humans alike. In this one, he's just kind of there. He's kind of hanging out, and no one has an issue with that. So I'm curious, was the first one overdone? Was this one not done enough? Who knows? But Lydia Deetz, I don't know. I don't think that Winona Rider as this character is the same person, whether that's written, acted, or directed that way. I wanted more Beetlejuice hauntings because that also in the first one, I love those. I love the stop motion hauntings, especially that final one. And then I thought this was too soundtrack reliant as opposed to the first movie where they really played with the score and they let Danny Elfman do more with it. I felt like they didn't do that as much in this movie.
Some of that might be budget related in relation to that first one and now this
Possibly.
one,
So this is really tough for me because I do think that it's a pretty good comedy sequel. I mean, it's a good comedy sequel. When you're looking at comedy sequels in general, you got to look at a bell curve. Legacy sequel-wise, I'd put it below some of the recent great ones that have come out. I don't know. I wasn't wowed.
Okay.
I think that this one didn't have the same creativity that you sit back and go, whoa, that's fucking crazy.
That's what I call music.
I always say, now that's what I call music when I'm watching a movie. I don't know. I think it lacks. I wanted them to do like updated creative stuff with this movie, and I don't think they did that. 29 hot dogs.
Wow. Okay. All right. Wow. Yeah, you are lower on it than I, and that's almost a full 10 dogs lower than the first one for you.
Yes.
To me, Goo, the new additions were all great. To which degree you can discuss Ortega, Thoreau, and Defoe. Really enjoyed each of them and what they brought to the movie. Again, didn't like the portrayal of Lydia Deetz here. However, I did like the way they framed her and what she became. I like that she's one of those paranormal TV investigators. That hit for me. I enjoyed that. Again, it really just felt like she was playing Joyce Byers. Maybe you could argue Joyce Byers is a riff off of Lydia in the first place, but that's an argument for a different day. The treatment of Charles Deetz in this was perfect.
Yeah.
You know, the way his grave is shaped. Once I finally realized that 20 minutes later that I should have.
I was going to point it out to you in the theater, like when he first started. I was going to point and be like, hey, you see that? But I was like, no, Mac probably has eyes.
I think I was too concentrated on the translucent aspect to understand the shape.
Because 1 hour in, Mac, touched my shoulder and said, hey, did you notice this? And I'm like, yes.
No, I said I just noticed. I know you had already.
Okay.
Also, there is a choir version of Deo in here. The Harry Belafonte
That was really
song.
funny, yes.
That fucking killed me. That was amazing. So that's all tied into the Charles stuff. We haven't talked about this yet. Monica Bellucci, another addition to this movie. I guess you could argue she was the worst addition. Her whole storyline wasn't great. They just sort of used it as a vehicle for Beetlejuice's motivations.
Yeah.
And that was fine. It was good enough, but not great.
But I did like the backstory of the two. I thought that was a pretty funny scene.
That was good. That was definitely good. Goo, I thoroughly enjoyed the twist in this movie. Again, maybe we are two stupid idiots that should have picked up on it. But to me, it's what took the movie to like another level. And really, it was like an oh shit type of moment.
Like I almost tore the chair in front of me and threw it off the wall. I was so mad at myself.
Yeah, it was nice. And if that's a spoiler for you, I apologize, but whatever. It's a sequel coming out 36 years later. Good. This movie was a pleasant surprise. I think it's the only real path they could have made this sequel. The pacing was great. I laughed. I was surprised. The characters were enjoyable. The Afterlife stuff was exactly what I wanted. I have this at 34 hot dogs, Goo. For reference, I gave the first one 34, 35. So maybe just a smidge under, but a completely different journey. That's for sure. It's my number 5 movie of 2024. It's up there. And again, I think 2024 hasn't been great. But this is in the conversation in that top 5 area.
Shall we spoil?
Let's do it.
Spoiler, spoiler,
Spoiler,
spoiler.
spoiler,
First, let's get to
spoilers.
the death of Charles.
Yeah.
I love that they had the false death about 2 or 3 times, and then it ended with him being eaten by a shark.
Yeah, and I loved the claymation part too. So
Yeah.
there was no wondering who was going to play this guy or is that so and so. They just went with a claymation thing, and then in the afterlife, he's a headless character, which was great. It was
Yeah.
the treatment of that character was absolutely perfect. But Goo,
Yes.
the thing we need to discuss, the thing we've been teasing here, the twist. The twist in this movie is that the boy that Jenna Ortega meets, Jeremy, he's a really bad guy.
He
He's
is.
a really bad guy, and he's a ghost. He's a
Mhm.
ghost. We're introduced to him, I guess, maybe in the beginning of the second act, and
Mhm.
he is this sort of love interest of Astrid. You know, they're like 16-ish in that area, and he seems like he's a nice boy, a bit of a nerd dork off the beaten path, the way Astrid and the Deetzes are. So
Yeah.
they connect, and you're sort of. I will say this. I thought at first, before we got the twist, the whole little love story thing between them was stupid. I didn't really care for it. But then the twist ramps it up where you and Jenna Ortega, Astrid, find out at the same time that he's a ghost. It was foreshadowed, however, because he had the handbook for the recently deceased, and he says he bought it at like a yard sale. And then you're thinking, oh, maybe he has the Maitland's book. But then you're like, wait a second. Once you think it through, there's that book only exists in the afterlife for dead people. So that was the giveaway that you and I missed.
Yes. When I was so mad. I'm like, he had the book, and he kept all of his albums were from the 90s too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so true. It was really well done. It's just it took it up to another level. And on top of that, you know, his whole plot, because he's a bad guy, it turns out he didn't die by accident. He killed his parents, and as a result of the police pursuit, he breaks his neck and dies. And so you're like, oh shit, that's a secondary thing here. And the third thing, which was a surprise for some, but this was overly foreshadowed, is the father of Astrid had died previously, and they talked about it a couple times. We knew he was going to play.
No, you knew he was
going
going to pop up in the afterlife.
and
Yeah.
I sort of liked how they handled that as well.
Did you like the scene where Beetlejuice stamps the passport with a no fucking way?
Yeah, that was good.
Although you think about it, Beetlejuice equally, if not worse guy. So he's there playing the hero, but he's also a terrible person.
Though there must be a list of no-nos for the afterlife people, because he gets sent like straight to hell there.
I know, but Beetlejuice, I think at the end of the first movie, was trying to do the same thing to Lydia.
No, he's just trying to marry her.
Yeah, to get himself, like, he was willing to do anything to get out of the afterlife,
As
much like this
he's doing
kid is.
again in this one, which was fine. But the whole soul swapping and leaving a live person in the afterlife, that's probably a no-no.
But Beetlejuice probably said to himself, oh, I should have tried that.
Yeah, possibly.
Those two are common people. That's what I'm saying. They're the same.
No, I don't think Beetlejuice murdered anyone other than the woman that was killing him.
I'm not sure. I feel like Beetlejuice might have murdered. He was a grave robber.
Yeah, but in his regular life, though, I don't think he actually murdered anyone. And this person murdered 2 people, his parents.
Can anyone go to Beetlejuice Wikipedia and let us know if Beetlejuice murdered?
Goo.
Yes.
Another really funny thing in here was Danny DeVito playing a janitor in the afterlife who had apparently killed himself by drinking like antifreeze or some shit.
And he was playing fucking Frank Reynolds.
Yeah, he was playing with Frank Reynolds / Penguin. It was a combination of the two.
Just drinking and just dribbling all over himself.
I really enjoyed that. Another little thing, which was a small thing, but was a thing. The first one, the realtor for the home is Jane Butterfield. And this one, her daughter, Jane Butterfield, also a realtor, and also named her daughter Jane. So that's a nice little tie-in I enjoyed as well.
Yeah, and then, so like I said, there's no big build-up to Beetlejuice in this. He's just in it. And I don't know, I kind of like that build-up. I like them to kind of like put like the breadcrumbs out there for us to play with, and they didn't really do that. He's just there working in the afterlife with his bioexorcism.
Yeah, that's a fair criticism. Do you want to run through the timeline here quickly? You want me to bounce around here real quick?
Yeah, go ahead and do it.
All right. So the whole whole thing that makes this go is the beginning of the movie. We see Lydia is a paranormal investigator / TV personality. Delia, her stepmother, is a successful artist. Lydia's daughter Astrid is in like a high school, a boarding school type of school, and presumably we think Astrid's about the same age as Lydia in the first one. Charles Deetz dies, perishes in that plane crash / shark attack. And that's how everyone gets together. Delia calls Lydia. They both go and pick up Astrid. Rory's there too. And Rory is Lydia's boyfriend, but also like manager and producer type of thing. Meanwhile, in the afterlife, very early on, we are introduced to Dolores, who puts herself back together, and she's hell-bent on getting revenge on Beetlejuice, her former lover of 600 years ago, who she was trying to steal the soul of, but then Beetlejuice axe murdered her, and then they both ended up dying. We also are then immediately reintroduced back to Beetlejuice. He's running an expanded bioexorcism operation from the first movie, and now Bob and all those head shrinkers are working for him. We are then immediately introduced to Wolf Jackson, a deceased actor who is now playing an investigator in the afterlife, and every scene he was in was very, very funny. Dafoe does a great job here. Back in the real world, we go to the Beetlejuice house where Charles was still living, and they're cleaning it out, and they're going to have the funeral and wake there, the services. And this is where Astrid starts to explore, ask questions about the house, the history, yada, yada.
I do like how they drape the house in a in like a black curtain kind of.
Yeah, that was pretty good. That fabric there.
Yeah.
Of course, Astrid and Lydia get into a little tiff. Astrid takes off, starts riding her bike around town, and this is where she crashes in to the tree that Jeremy is hanging out in. It's I don't know. It was fine the way they introduced it. It worked. I didn't care too
I thought
much
she was
about
gonna
it.
die at first.
Yeah,
she
it was
fucking
the whack she
smashed into
made.
that tree.
Yeah. And she also hates Rory, which is a big thing, and longs for her deceased father, which is the two things really motivating her in this movie. Astrid and Jeremy hit it off immediately. They're both the same type of weird, and they plan to hang out on Halloween, which is coincidentally when Rory wants to marry Lydia. He proposes to her during the services in a fakakta kind of way, and that's what causes a little rift there. The whole time, by the way, Lydia has been seeing Beetlejuice everywhere. She's kind of somewhat hallucinating, and it's sort of leading to their inevitable reunion. And Rory thinks she's out of her mind, batshit crazy, until they go up into the attic and he says, Beetlejuice, 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 Beetlejuice. And he thinks, or he has the run in, thought it was a dream, that whole thing. Meanwhile, Beetlejuice has been running / hiding from Dolores, and Wolf Jackson has been simultaneously searching for Dolores. So that's what's going on in the afterlife, where we finally get to the twist here. Jeremy is in fact a ghost, again foreshadowed by the book of the recently deceased, and has been dead for like 25 years. And Astrid, who didn't believe in ghosts, and so the audience would never really think she would see a ghost, has in fact been seeing Jeremy this whole time because she has the same gift as her mother, which this is like at the beginning of the third act. This is where really things ramp up and what takes the movie from like decent to pretty good, I felt like.
Also, I had never in the first movie considered it to be a gift, more just along the lines of like those who believe can see.
I think it's more of a gift, but
No, I mean, now it definitely is a gift. But
yeah, you're right.
In the first movie, I was never like, oh, she has a gift.
Yeah, there was sort of a creative liberty they definitely took in this one. Again, we find out shortly after that Jeremy kills his parents. He was a really bad guy. And in order to, once Lydia puts 2 and 2 together because of Jane Butterfield, Lydia enlists the help of Beetlejuice to save Astrid, but again, not before she agrees to sign a contract to wed him again, or to try to wed him a second time. And this is also like an easy way for him to escape Dolores, which is motivating him. So the two go into the afterlife to pursue Astrid and Jeremy. While we're there, we meet Richard, the deceased father, and you get a nice couple scenes with Richard, and Richard's the one that helps them escape the afterlife. And we also in the afterlife learn about the Soul Train, which is where people go to the great beyond, and I really enjoyed that take on it.
I guess that you could really, outside of getting that little backstory of the plague with Beetlejuice, you didn't need Dolores in this movie at all.
Yeah, no, she just sort of
She's
exists.
just hanging in the background.
She exists to like scare Beetlejuice and motivate Beetlejuice on a secondary level, which was fine. Like I said, it was okay.
But he also didn't really need that motivation.
I guess he maybe didn't, but then it would have been tough to introduce him earlier on in the movie if you didn't do that. So I see why they did it.
All right, man.
I loved the use of the Bee Gees tragedy, by the way. I love the Bee Gees in general, so that really was sweet for me.
Mac likes music. We get it.
They all help save her. The juice sends Jeremy to hell, I guess. Is that where he ended up? You see flames.
Mhm.
And then they get back into the real world with the help of Richard, where it's about time to marry Rory. So they go to the church, and then of course Beetlejuice shows up shortly after, and this is where the Beetlejuice hijinks commences, and he's fucking with everyone in the church. He gets Wolf Jackson and the cops to freeze, and you get, what was the song they were singing in there?
I have no idea what the song is. I will say that I think like my favorite kind of gag, like haunting gag, is him sucking the people into their phones.
Yeah, yeah, that was pretty good.
And I wanted more of stuff like that
Sure.
because yes, the musical stuff, that's funny to a point, but it also went on way too long.
It came back around for me though. I
I
get what
don't
you're
know
saying.
if it did. I
It
don't
came back
know if it
around for
did.
me. Fair
But
enough.
I wanted more of him doing new haunting, not just doing dance sequences.
That's fair, but obviously the most iconic scene from the first one is the dance sequence.
I know that. So like I understand why they did it, but I think it was too long. There was too much of it. And you also need to have him doing some creative stuff.
That's a fair criticism. It didn't bother me as much as it clearly bothered you. So we're in this church. Obviously, all the storylines are coming together. Dolores is there. Wolf Jackson is there. And then, of course, Astrid finds that book conveniently there in the church. She summons the sandworm who devours Dolores and Rory. And then we learn, I guess she had time to read as well, that the contract Lydia signs with Beetlejuice is null and void. Lydia finally sacks up and sends Beetlejuice away forever. The end. Successful movie. I thought it was a little bizarre. They slightly addressed that Catherine O'Hara's dead, but like, will she be able to like go to the places they're going, or is she stuck in Winter River because she died there?
No, she's in heaven. Her and Charles went on the Soul Train.
Oh, that's right. They go on the Soul Train at the end. So you're right. There was a good send off there. Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I do like her death. I think that was pretty good.
It was very fitting of the character.
Yes, and then I like her getting her
Actually,
send-off. It was nice.
her best line might have been, "I died of embarrassment."
Yeah, yep. I laughed at that. Yeah. Also, the Charles shark fin. That was the thing that you pointed out to me with the grave.
His grave is shaped like a shark fin, and I guess I was so distracted by the translucent aspect of it and trying to read the writing on the grave, which said like father, grandfather, and like bird watcher, which was pretty good. That it took me like 3 scenes to realize it was actually a shark fin.
Although I will say, so Tim Burton has said that he will not do a sequel to this movie, but if it makes what 600 million, 700 million,
It's gonna make at least 5, I think, if you subscribe to all these tracking and in 100 million the first weekend, and it's gonna have worldwide money, which it didn't have the first.
And we'll
time.
also get to in 1 second what the schedule is coming out for fucking movies.
Yeah, that's a good point too. So
Is this allowed to be played in China?
this is gonna have a runway of at least all of September. And
Yes.
because Halloween is at the end of October, it's probably going to have a good 2-month run at the box office.
Okay, so yeah, I could see this making 750, 800 million.
Yeah, it's going to make a lot of money. That's
So
for damn sure.
does Warner Brothers say we want another sequel to this? And if that's the case, do they do it, say, without Beetlejuice? Do they try and
Yeah.
find a way to bring O'Hara back and have her do some of the funner stuff in the afterlife? Do they focus more on the afterlife? I don't know.
3 Beetle, 3 Juice just doesn't quite have the ring to it.
Well, no,
his
you would
story's
just call
done
it.
too.
You'd call it Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. You just add a Beetlejuice at the end.
No, 3 Beetle, 3 Juice is clearly the way they're going to go. But his story's over, right? So what? Why would you can't go back down the Beetlejuice road? I don't think.
I know, but this Beetlejuice road felt like him as a character felt a little forced too.
Are they going to
So-
Furiosa it? You know, so and so Astrid, a Beetlejuice story.
Hopefully, that's what they do.
Yeah.
Let's get into Maxac.
And Maxac could be anything, and like I just teased, we have quite a cold stretch of movies coming out.
We have one that I'm really looking forward to. One.
I will guess it in 1 second.
Okay.
But so Beetlejuice is out this weekend, Beetlejuice, and I think it has a possible 8 to 9 week run of dominance here.
Yeah, it may, especially considering the early reviews on Joker 2.
Like, I think so upcoming this next week, we have Killer's Game starring Sophia Boutella, Dave Bautista,
Butella.
and Palm Clementif, Speak No Evil with James McAvoy, and then My Old Ass with Aubrey Plaza. I do want to see My Old Ass, but not to like, oh, I need to rush to the theater to see it.
If they promise Bear Aubrey Plaza ass, I will see it.
Then the following week, September 20th, this is a pretty good weekend for movies, and that is Wolves and Transformers 1. Now, Transformers 1 will do well at the box office, but I'm not sure beyond like it might win its opening weekend, but will it be sustainable?
I think it'll do well for a couple weeks. On the flip side, I don't know how well Wolves will do, but that's the movie I'm really looking forward to most over these next couple of months.
Is that going straight to Apple TV Plus?
I think it's you actually might be right. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets a couple weeks at the theater, though. This is, of course, the Clooney Brad Pitt movie that it looks very promising.
Then the next movie up that I have no idea.
I am so fucking confused.
I'm so confused by Megalopolis.
Yeah, Adam Driver, like 20 years in the making. I don't know.
They had that big advertising thing where they made up fake quotes saying that fucking Coppola's an idiot.
Yeah, Francis Ford Coppola has been trying to make this movie for like 30 years, so I don't know. That can't be a good thing.
On the 4th of October, you have Joker Folie à Deux.
Yeah, more like Joker Poo. Folie à Poo.
There you go. I was going to say, you should say the word folly in there, too.
Yeah,
it's French.
yeah.
I am interested on the 11th of October for Saturday Night, which is a movie about the first episode of Saturday Night Live.
This is promising. This could be really good. It's not going to do well at the theater, though.
No, but the people that I should have looked up the actors, but the people that are playing Chevy Chase, Gilda Radner, and John Belushi are like dead on.
They crushed the casting for sure.
On the 18th of October, we have Smile 2.
I still haven't seen the first one. The first one did better than they anticipated, so there'll be a little bit of an audience there, and that is the week before Halloween as well, so there'll be a bit of an appetite for it.
And then on the 25th of October, and this will win the box office this week, and that is Venom: Last Dance.
Yep. That's going to make a lot of money, and by a lot, so maybe like 70 million. It's going to win the first week and then probably get terrible reviews, and everyone that wanted to see it went and saw it the first week. So that could be really bad.
So I think solo episodes out of the next 2 months of movies is Wolves, Joker Folie à Deux, and then Last Dance.
Yeah, and possibly Saturday Night.
Yeah, possibly Saturday night.
Megalopolis is really bad, maybe we should do that as well. And if Transformers 1 happens to be really good, maybe we should do that.
I will see Transformers 1 for you.
Okay, we'll see.
Oh, my son also really wants to see it, so I'll probably just see it with him.
All right.
Mac, where can the people find us?
You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Mac and Goo Podcast. Every other platform, we are Mac & Goo. That's Mac Shift 7 Goo. That includes Facebook, Stitcher, TuneIn, Castbox, Spreaker, Google Play, iHeartRadio. We are on Spotify, of course, but more importantly, we're on Apple Podcasts. Get on there, rate, review, subscribe, 5 stars. If you do that, we'll get you a free Mac and Goo t-shirt from the folks over at Watertown Sportswear. That is Watertown Sportswear on 34 Mount Auburn Street in Watertown. Watertown Sportswear, expert screen printing and embroidery.
We are currently out of the shirts.
Oh, all right, good.
So we need to get new shirts if we're going to do this.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, Alexa, play Mac and Goo Movie Club on the iHeartRadio app. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button, punch the subscribe button. Did I already say thumbs up?
Sure.
I think we should we push our YouTube more?
I don't know. I don't want you to do any more work than you're doing.
Oh, no. I am doing my 1 clip a week.
All right.
I am falling asleep at 9:30 every night.
Good.
Unless I have more time during the day, which I might, because the school season is starting, and also, my son has almost a job-like hours now.
Also, if you missed it, we were on 2 dork episodes the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We did the top 50 movies of all time, and the list came out pretty good. I'm not embarrassed by it, so that's good. There are 3 movies on the list I haven't seen that I think I'm actually going to now go and watch because they're officially on that list.
I can't believe that our number one movie, I think you and I had the same number one movie,
Yeah.
was not on one person's list.
Lunacy.
Yeah.
And the expectation or the explanation was maybe worse.
Yeah, he said it's more of a New England thing. People from New England really like it, but no one outside of New England likes it.
That was for a different movie.
Well, I don't know about that. All right, so check us out next week. We will do a news dump, and then we need to brainstorm ideas because there's nothing coming out anymore.
Okay. All right.
And also, I might lose the Joker bet because I said we set it at 500 million. I went above, you went below. And I do think it'll win its opening week, but if it's not good, people aren't going to see it.
Yeah. And the run up here, it just debuted at Venice last week or this past week. And there's been some middling reviews. I haven't seen one person claim that it's a great movie, and that's going to really, really hurt it.
I heard someone say I went goo-goo over Gaga. No one said that, but I'm going to say it during the podcast. I'm going to write that one down and then say it.
Hey, here's a trivia for you and anyone at home.
Yeah.
If you can tell me Lady Gaga's real name, I'll owe you something.
It's Stephanie. I know that she's Italian. I saw that 1 minute compilation of her saying over and over again that she's Italian, even though we forgot to put her on our Italian tiers. I would have put her at the top.
Yeah, I love Gaga.
Yeah. Stephanie Mario.
Stephanie Germanata.
God damn it. Okay. Well, if anyone got that right at home, Mac will send you something.
Yeah. We'll get you a free t-shirt from Watertown Sportswear.
Tuesdays are goose days. I abuse kangaroos.
Bye.
Tim Burton.
Please flip the cassette over to side B to continue the adventure.
Now it's time for girls jumping on trampolines.